All right, what's up, everybody? Time for another edition of Bleav in Rams, part of the Bleav Network. Erin Coscarelli back with you. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, follow all of these things. We're on social, we're on Bleav TV, and I've got my co-host Tyler Dragon from USA Today to join. But first, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, Tyler.
With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL, entertainment, and political props. Head to BetOnline today to get in on all the action with America's trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.
Whoop, whoop. Tyler, amazing read. Get in on the action. Speaking of action, there's a lot to get to this week. Week 9 recap coming at you hot, just like a Matthew Stafford walk-off touchdown, beating the Seattle Seahawks. Can you tell I'm just slightly jazzed? Because this game had a lot of playoff implications. I talked about it on Instagram. Everybody talked about it on X. What's your biggest takeaway from this Demarcus Robinson one-handed grab? I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, it had a lot of drama. It was sloppy at times, but I want to get Tyler's takeaway. What was your biggest takeaway from this game, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, happy Victory Monday. We get to say that again. That is always good. And this was, like you said, a huge Rams win, not only for playoff implications. They're sitting at number 2. I know it's pretty much in a virtual tie in the NFC West, but for them to get that win on the road against the Seattle Seahawks team and the way they did it, it was kind of a back and forth affair. They had 2 huge red zone stops that by way of interceptions. And like you said, Demarcus Robinson, that catch, top play worthy nominee, one of the best catches of week 9. And that's saying something because we saw some excellent catches this week. For some reason, this week was like a highlight worthy reel of catches. But Demarcus Robinson for a game winning touchdown, you have to give props to not only him, but the Rams offense. This Rams offense, it is something different with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Now, I know Puka Nacua have kind of a notable exit with that punch. However, overall, I think this win is a type of win that can galvanize the Rams and give a springboard then into this stretch run. Because quite frankly, we're at the beginning of the stretch run as we approach week 10 with November football and December football. This is the time where all the games have huge playoff implications, and every game that they're playing for something. Because at this point, you have to look at the standings now because every game has playoff implications.
Yeah, this matters. This Seahawks game mattered. And look, a lot of question marks for the Rams coming into this matchup, coming into this week 9 matchup, because, they went on a 2-game winning streak, now a 3-game winning streak, but I think this is their first road win. They hadn't been able to win on the road, and it was a test. Seattle's not easy to play. C-Link is loud. Whether you think the 12s come and show up, I was on a Seahawks podcast last week, and they were saying the 12s don't show up as much anymore. It's still a hostile environment. It's still a huge, important road win, a 26-20 win in overtime. Like you mentioned, Demarcus Robinson, I think, has had, 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. And this game was ripe with so much drama. It was sloppy, twists and turns, ups and downs. What this game for me signified is what we're seeing and what we've seen from the Rams all season long, how they show up when they're facing adversity. Whether it's their backs against the wall, against a division opponent like the Seattle Seahawks, or they're 1-4 heading into the bye, and everyone's decided, you know what, forget the Rams. To me, this is November football because it is adversity. There's guys that are going to be injured. How does Sean McVay plan and scheme and attack? And, we saw a Puka Nacua ejection. Kyren Williams' touchdown streak ended. How about the Rams defense? Their front seven, I mean, a defense, by the way, heading in the season, had a lot of question marks, a lot of criticism during the season. No Aaron Donald, no Ernest Jones. A lot of people wondering if that was a smart move on their end. And of course, a new defensive coordinator in Chris Shula. I don't envy what shoes Chris Shula was trying to figure out. But let's start for you. What did you learn the most about this team throughout the game, in your opinion?
I learned that they are resilient.
Yeah.
There were several times in that game that momentum was going the other way, and they swung momentum on their side like quick, fast, in a hurry. I learned that Demarcus Robinson, I mean, he's turned into one of the best red zone threats, touchdown makers in
Yeah.
NFL. He even got a shout out from his former teammate, Patrick Mahomes, on X for all his work and his improvement this year. Like you said, 4 touchdowns in 2 weeks. I learned that this defense is opportunistic and they're bend, don't break defense. There were multiple times the Seahawks were driving and Geno Smith threw a pick. He threw 3 of them, 2 of them when the Seahawks were threatening to score. And when you win games like that on the road in overtime, yes, the Rams are 1-3 on the road, but this win was kind of that gritty comeback type performance where you had to battle adversity throughout the game and rally back and win that. That can bode well going forward, especially when you're playing November football against teams that you're going to be competing with and jostling with in playoff position. You still have to play the 49ers again. You're going to have to, of course, play the Seahawks again. The Arizona Cardinals, surprisingly, are looking good. I was at that game covering it this weekend. So you have to be able to beat these teams not only at home, but on the road. And there's going to be some critical games going forward. So I learned a lot. But most importantly, I learned that the Rams are resilient and they are battle tested. That this game proved that they are battle tested. They survived on the road in overtime in a hostile environment. And that going forward, you can build on that for the rest of this season.
Yeah, and I think it's the scariest when you're facing a team that has faced adversity and is battle tested. And remember, 4 of the first 5 games were one possession games. And I know you can say asterisk, Seattle didn't have their best receiver in DK Metcalf, but guys, let's not forget the Rams have not had Cooper and Puka on the field for the majority of the season. So that's not an excuse, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's interesting the way the season's played out, and certainly the way the team has rallied together, galvanized together, that walk-off touchdown. And each and every single win has had its own sort of unique way or theme of getting it done. And let's talk about the defense for a moment, because I love that you were with the Cardinals this week, that you were covering that game in person, because I do want to actually talk about the Cardinals later in the show. That is an ever more important game, in my opinion, a week 17 matchup. I can't remember. Are we on the road? I can't remember if the Cardinals are
Cardinals come to LA in week 17.
That's right. Because we were in Arizona week, whatever it was. But let's talk about this young Rams defense. I mean, it's so exciting to see it kind of work itself out. After 8 games, the Rams defense has placed 22 points on the scoreboard. And remember, the ethos of this team, and I remember this during training camp, Tyler, it felt like the ethos of this team was, let's just fire up the offense, score a shit ton of points, and then, we'll fall back on our defense, but let's compensate or overcompensate by scoring a lot. And now you have a defense this past Sunday that sacked Geno 7 times, 3 interceptions. They had a pick 6. I want to say 8 tackles for loss. And guys like Jalen McCullough, an undrafted rookie, picking off his 4th pass. of the season. In fact, I think McCullough leads all NFL rookies with 4 interceptions this season. And then Braden Fisk had 2 sacks. For
Mm-hmm.
you, why do you see that this defense is sort of putting it together now? What is it that you're seeing? Because it's not easy. So many young guys coming and trying to, fill the void of missing number 99, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Geno Smith was sacked 7 times, I believe. That's a season best for the Rams sack total in a single game. I think they're, especially their front 7, they're coming together. They're
Mhm.
learning how to play. Kobe Turner, 2 rookies, Byron Young, Fisk, like you said. They're gelling and they're coming together at the right time. And we kind of saw it during last week's win when
Mhm.
they pretty much manhandled and had the advantage against the Minnesota Vikings, a Vikings team that was 5-1 at the time, or only 1 loss that handed them their second straight loss. So I feel like the Rams defense is clicking and starting to gel together at the right time. They have exceeded my expectations. I have to tell you, when I saw this Rams defense on paper week 1, void of Aaron Donald, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a long year for the Rams. They're not going to be able to fill the void of Aaron Donald. And they still haven't filled the void of Aaron Donald. Nobody can. He's probably arguably the best defensive tackle in NFL history. However, they have done an admirable job of building that defensive line, that front 7, with young players, athletic players, hungry players, willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the team, and it's starting to pay off. You see it with a 7-sack performance this week. You saw it how they got after the Vikings and their offensive line. This Rams team, I cannot wait till that Monday night showdown. I know we're going to
Mm.
talk about against the Miami Dolphins, because this is a game where the Rams can really put their stamp on things on national TV. Yeah, they were on Thursday Night Football, but Monday Night Football, another national game where the Rams can really make a statement, not
Mhm.
only just for the NFL, but especially the NFC West.
Yeah, that Cam Kitchens 103-yard interception
Yeah.
was return in the 4th. It was the longest interception return in Rams franchise history. So they're doing things, it seems like, at the right
Mm-hmm.
time. They're now at 400, and here's the big kicker. They're getting guys back, and guys
Mm-hmm.
back healthy. Some news and notes, first and foremost, that we learned from Sean McVay. Um, Havenstein out officially against the Dolphins. He's got that ankle injury, a blow. However, Joe Noteboom could play at right tackle. The 21-day activation window when a guy is on IR for Avila and Jonah Jackson, we could potentially see them on the offensive line
Mm-hmm.
against the Dolphins. And by the way, in the next couple weeks, that could mean the entire starting 5 offensive linemen back on the field for the first time
First
all
time.
year. Hello, people. That is huge because remember, Stafford was getting sacked left and right. Keeping that
Yeah.
guy upright, giving him some time, and now you've got Puka and Cooper. Hopefully, will stay relatively healthy as the season progresses. In your opinion, though, how did you feel? It was a bummer. We didn't really get to see Puka in the game. He had the ejection for throwing a punch. What was your take on that particular incident from Puka?
Well, he should have been ejected. Let's be honest. He threw a punch. His wallet's going to be a little bit lighter this week or next week. Whenever the NFL decides to fine him, he's going to have to buy a little bit less Christmas gifts during the holiday season. But overall, unfortunately for the Rams and the Rams team, they're kind of used to not having either Puka Nacua or Cooper Cup.
Yeah.
Now, the good news is he is just one game. He'll come back next week. And Cooper Cup and Demarcus Robinson more than filled the void. You talk about 2 touchdowns from Robinson. Cooper Cup, 11 receptions, another Cooper Cup type game. So the Rams have shown, especially when one of them are on the field, they still have the ability to manufacture offense, and the development of Demarcus Robinson, especially his ability to get in the end zone these last 2 weeks, is notable.
Mhm.
And you obviously got to continue to try to establish the run with Williams. I think that they did pretty good without Puka Nacua, considering what happened in that time frame in the game. But for Puka Nacua's sake, you want to try to keep your cool. He said that he lost his composure, lost his cool, and he's going to learn from that. He's a second-year player. In the heat of the battle, in the moment, things happen. He made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. I think he's going to learn from it and know that he's too valuable to cost his team like that. They could have lost this game, and he could have had a huge impact in their loss because Matthew Stafford was without one of his best weapons on the football field. So he's going to learn from this mistake. He's going to be punished for it again with his wallet. But I do Bleav that in the long run, he will learn from what happened.
Yeah, and I think you made a really good point. In the long run, when in previous games, if you lost a guy like Puka, the Rams would be in big trouble. But now you've needed to figure out how to win without guys like that, and it's buffed up. I would say our wide receiver core with guys like Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Whittington, who was incredible during the preseason. They've got some depth, and now you have the offensive line coming back. We didn't see a touchdown from Kyren Williams, but my big takeaway is each and every game we're seeing the Rams win in different ways. Remember, Kyren Williams was, carrying this team for the large portion of the season when they didn't have Puka and Cooper in the lineup. And then now it seemed like this game was won by the defense. And of course, a Demarcus Robinson walk-off touchdown. And it's really interesting as I want to talk a little bit about the Dolphins. And then, of course, I want to get your take on the Cardinals. Monday Night Football, you're right. It's prime time. It is, and it's a lot of pressure for a young team to show up and get it done when there is so many eyeballs and so much pressure to continue to win. How do you see this Rams? In fact, actually, one of the things I was going to ask you is, what does Sean McVay say? How does he address the team in terms of what he thinks they need to work on and get ready for against what the Dolphins, I think, have 2 wins against a 2-win team. I might be wrong about that. How are they prepping to take on the Dolphins this week?
Yeah, well, first of all, the Dolphins 2-6 record is not a good,
Showing.
showing of how they are as a team. They are
Yeah.
better than their 2-6 record because Tua, we all know, was out with concussions, and he has a long concussion history, obviously. But when they're on the field healthy, they have one of the most explosive offenses in the National Football League. Tyreek Hill, arguably the fastest player in the NFL, got Jalen Waddle and Mike McDaniel. His run game, his scheme, his offensive system, it presents a lot of problems. It gets people moving, gets their eyes moving on defense. So they're going to have to play discipline on defense and obviously get after the quarterback. When Tua is pressured, he turns in, he gets kind of happy feet in the pocket. He gets erratic, starts throwing inaccurate footballs and can throw interceptions, can get sacked. So they need to be able to pressure Tua, get after him, kind of rattle him a little bit so he doesn't have all this time to throw to those track stars outside. Because if he has time in the pocket, he can slice and dice opposing teams up, especially with Tyreek Hill on the outside, one of the best players in all of football. So they need to be disciplined on defense because that's what the Dolphins like. They like to put Hill, Waddle in motion and try to get teams moving, try to get them moving side to side, and then beat them straight down the field over the middle. And on offense, the Dolphins don't really have a pass rush. So Stafford should be pretty comfortable back there, and he should have matchup advantages on the outside with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And I expect them to be able to run the football as well. I think the Dolphins aren't that. I mean, they're decent, but I do Bleav the Rams are the better team. They're obviously playing better, but it's a matchup where the Dolphins are better than a lot of people think they are, just because they look at that 2-6 record and think, oh, well, they're just
Mhm.
not having a good year. No, they're 2-6 because Tua was injured, and they've lost some close games in his return. So this is
Mhm.
going to be a tough contest. The Dolphins are fighting for their playoff lives. They're out of it right now. They lose this game, they can probably kiss their playoff hopes goodbye. And the Rams are looking at the division like, okay, the Cardinals are literally a half game ahead of us. We can beat this Cardinals team. We've had success against them in the past. And so we need to win this game and continue our winning streak.
Yeah, and it's a good game to be fresh off of a 7 sack
Right.
attack against Geno Smith, being that, not necessarily the same type of quarterback, but like to, get out of the pocket, move around, and can be frazzled when pressured and blitzed, and throwing everything at them. And it's been nice to see Chris Shula fill in for a Raheem Morris, because I think a lot of people, certainly in the beginning of the season, were like, yeah, no, this is going to be a tough take
Mhm.
for Chris Shula. Um, yeah, and the fact that, it's Monday night football. The Rams play host. The Dolphins have to travel. It's not easy to go East
Mhm.
Coast to West Coast, but this isn't a layup. And even though the Rams are now at 500, and like you said, a half game back, they can't take their foot off the gas. This is an all important game, and it feels like that for the rest of the season. To be honest, I mean, so if we take a look. The Rams, they take on the Dolphins, and then they have a Patriots game in the morning in New England. And then they have to deal with the Eagles and the Saints, the Bills. That's not going to be easy. And then they
Mhm.
have a matchup against the Niners, and then they take on. The Cardinals. In your opinion of those games, of that stretch of games, and we'll get into the Cardinals because I think it's very interesting. You just came from there, and you have fresh eyes on the team and what you think you can expect to see with them in the next few weeks. But what of those games do you feel like are the most dangerous for the Rams?
The Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles might be the best team in the NFC right now. It's either them or the Detroit Lions,
Mhm.
in my opinion. And with how Saquon Barkley is running the ball, AJ Brown's a little bit dinged up, but Devontae Smith, the way he's playing, Hurts is playing better football. Their defense is playing better. They just beat down the Bengals in week 8, and then obviously coming off a win in week 9. That is the game that I have circled. That, I mean, I have to admit, I'll probably pick the Eagles in that game if you look at my picks at usatoday.com. Now, against the Dolphins, this is a winnable game. It's going to be difficult, but they should win. I'm going to pick them to win. And the Patriots, if they don't beat the Patriots, I'm going. I should. They should be very disappointed. Now the Patriots are a rebuilding team. It is tough. You're traveling cross country. Got to play early in the morning, West Coast time. You're in New England. It's going to be cold. You're not going to get that LA weather. But if you mean business, if you're a serious playoff contending football team, you have to win games that you should win against inferior opponents. The Patriots, let's be honest, they're an inferior opponent. They're starting a rookie quarterback. They lack talent on the outside and on defense. Shoot, they're letting go talented players, trading them away. So they're in a
Mhm.
rebuild. They are sellers at the trade deadline. So they have to win that game. But yeah, the Eagles, to answer your question, is going to be the toughest opponent.
I think our producer Ethan is a big Eagles fan. You're more than welcome to jump in, Ethan. So I'm sure that's a jingle to his ears for sure. But yeah, the Eagles are dangerous. The Eagles are super scary. Obviously, so are the Lions. But maybe at that third spot, the Rams, if they continue to string together some of these wins, who, by the way, are not going to be, according to McVay, active during the trade deadline. They may get rid of Trey White, but it appears they're not going to be very active, which is so funny because a couple weeks ago we were talking about maybe dishing off Cooper Kupp, sending Matthew Stafford somewhere. So there's a very different storyline for the LA Rams heading into week 10 than it was heading into week 7, week 8. But last but not least, it was one of the things that I posted on Instagram, which, by the way, guys, If you have thoughts or input or questions, we're always reading the comments either on YouTube, Instagram, X. Please let us know what you think, what you want to
Mhm.
hear, what you want to talk about. We're more than happy to answer some questions that you may have. But one of the things that I did post on Instagram was the Cardinals. The Cardinals, week 17, they destroyed the Rams. 41-10, I think, was the final score there. You just came from an interesting matchup, watching the Cardinals in person. What's your take on the team? Why are they seemingly clicking? And why were a lot of people underestimating them?
Their run game. They rushed for over 200 yards against the Bears on Sunday. They have eclipsed 200 yards and multiple rushing yards in multiple games this year. James Conner, he's playing like a poor man's Derrick Henry, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Derrick Henry's elite. James Conner is playing similar to him, and Kyler Murray is making plays, especially when the team needs it. And another big takeaway is their defense. This is a pretty much a no-name defense besides Buda Baker. There are not a
Mm.
lot of household names on that side of the football. However, they are playing hard. They're getting after the quarterback. It's not necessarily leading to sack numbers, but they are playing complementary football and in the right position on defense, and they are holding teams pretty much out of the end zone. They had a good win against the LA Chargers a few weeks ago. This win against the Bears was legitimate. They just came off of beating the Dolphins, so they're in a winning streak as well. And I look at this Cardinals team, and I see a team that's hungry, that's read a lot of the press clippings before the
Mhm.
season, and there wasn't a lot of expectations coming out of Arizona. But they're Jonathan Gannon. I have to give that head coach a lot of credit because he has this Cardinals team playing hard on both sides of the ball, playing discipline on both sides of the ball. And who would have thought that the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals, have a stout running game with a bruising downhill running back in James Conner? But they do, and that's why they're winning football games.
Do not underestimate the Arizona Cardinals, you guys. And you're right. And I'm sure they were reading all the skeptics, all the criticism, and I still think they're underestimated, regardless of what we're able to see on the football field. And I know the Rams are not going to underestimate them when they see them again. Certainly not after that 41-10 beating that they took when they were in Arizona. I mean, it's been a whirlwind, and it's been so much fun getting to work with you, Tyler. We're so grateful that you join us each and every week. A 26-20 overtime walk-off touchdown win. I mean, it was so beautiful. What a ball by Stafford. What a catch by DeMarcus Robinson. And now the Rams are 4-4 with a Monday Night Football game on deck against the Dolphins at home. Let's do it again next week. Tyler Dragon, grateful for you. Thank you.
So it'll be Victory Tuesday next week, right?
I think that's what it's called, right?
Have a good one.
Thanks, Tyler.